Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Barcelos, and welcome to the Yoga Business Mastermind, our very first webinar. Tonight, we're going to be talking with Cinnamon McCann. She's our special guest, and she's going to give us an overview. We're calling it a Marketing 101 overview for yoga studios. So welcome, Cinnamon, and let's go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Jenny, for having me. I appreciate it. So let's do a couple of housekeeping things before we start. So this is a live stream, so sometimes technology works and sometimes it doesn't. So you may notice a drag or a lag, but don't be concerned. And we're going to do the presentation and then Q&A at the end, right? Jenny?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead with the presentation, and then if you have any Q&A questions or some questions, you can go ahead and type those in the YouTube box. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a marketing and business consultant. I also have a training series that I do for women called the Stiletto Series, and it's in a variety of things of business and that type of thing. So because I do a lot of marketing, I wanted to focus it specifically on yoga studio owners. So be sure that you have pen and paper because we're going to go over a lot, and I'm going to list a lot of websites and all that great stuff. So just focus with me and we'll have a good time. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, I'm Cinnamon McCann. I'm going to be your host for this evening. And what we're going to go over in this particular workshop, I'm going to talk about 5 things you can do today to grow your leads online. We'll also talk about some free tools that will help you explode your business and increase your sales. And then I'm going to talk about the top ways to have customers reaching out to contact you. All right, so let's get started. So you have to remember that people, when they need to search for something, they're going to either their tablet, their cell phone, or their computer. People are not going to the yellow pages anymore. So you have to consider that when people are looking for your yoga studio, you want to make sure that you show up in search, okay? So we're going to talk about some ways to do that. Now, before we go into the steps, I want you to understand that there's like 3 different marketing phases. You have your discovery phase, the experience phase, and the retention phase. So with the discovery phase, this is basically how your customers and prospects find out about your product or service. So this can be done with Google search, it can be done with your website, Google Places, or Google My Business, which we'll go into a little bit later, referrals, direct mail, YouTube, and social media. So you may see YouTube and think, well, isn't that a form of social media? I'm going to beg to differ that it's something else. I love YouTube, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But this is basically not all the ways that your customers can find out about you, but these are just some of the ways. And you want to make sure that when they do find you in the discovery phase, that you give them information that will make them want to stay with you, okay? So next we have the experience phase. This is basically once the customer find out about you, what experience do they get? So how is your yoga experience different from your competitors? You want to make sure that you're clear, and on your website, you want to state that. Not specifically, we're different from our competitors by this way, but just show what an experience coming to your yoga studio, how that will differ from other places that they could possibly go. You want your customer to know what to get when they're working with you, what to expect, and videos are great ways to do that on your website. So basically, this is when the customer meets you, either online or in person. And you want to make sure that you're giving them a good experience in that process. So after experience, you have retention. Retention is like one of my favorites because a lot of business owners think that they have to spend a lot of money trying to get new customers. If someone has already spent money with you and they had a good experience, they're going to want to return. So you have to nurture that relationship. And that's what retention is all about. This is a phase where you nurture the relationship with your customer to create a long-lasting relationship. Some ways you can do that are your online reviews and surveys, your email follow-up. You want to do a periodic phone check-in. That's very important. Direct mail, email offer sequences, and a periodic value delivery. And basically what that means is you can email or send mailing of something that's going to be valuable to your customer periodically. Because basically what you're saying is, hey, look, I'm still here. How are you? I still want to give value. You have to do that with your customers because they'll forget. It's a lot of things that are competing for our time. And so all you need every now and then is that postcard or that email or a combination of those things so that people remember you. So we don't have that much time today. So for this presentation, we're just going to focus on the discovery phase. I don't want you to forget how important the other phases are, but for today, we're just going to focus on this one. Okay, so for the marketing phase, how your customers and prospects find you and your product. So let's get started. Now, if you have a website, which you should, you want to make sure that you show up in Google search. And one of the ways you can do that is going to Google's URL submission. And as you can see here, you can go to google.com/webmaster-tools, no, webmaster /tools/submit URL. Now, Google changes URLs quite often. If this URL to submit it changes, just Google submission URL and you'll find it. And that's going to be helpful for you. It depends because there's millions and millions of sites that are on Google as to how long it'll take for your website to get submitted. But just do it anyway. It's free, so go ahead and do it. One of the other ways are the Google Places and Google My Business. Google Places was the formal name. Google's changing a couple things, so now it's kind of called Google My Business, but it's basically the same thing. We're going to go live to a website so I can show you why it's important that you do this with your business. If you have a physical location, which clearly you do because you're a yoga studio owner, you have to set up a Google profile page, and it's absolutely free. So actually, if you want to know how to do it, if you go on YouTube and you YouTube search the Stiletto series and Google Places, I'd show a step-by-step video as to how to do it. But let me tell you what things are important when you do your Google Places profile. You want to make sure that you have keywords that are associated with your business and the demographic of the people that you want to serve. You also want to make sure that you have pictures, because remember when we talked about the whole experience, this is a way that your customers or your prospects can learn and see before they even meet you, before they even experience any training from you. So you want to have pictures, and you can do it of you, you can do it of your studio, you can do a variety of things, but you want to include pictures on your profile. Video. You don't have to include video, so I don't want to stress anyone out, but again, this helps contribute to the whole experience we were talking about. So if you have video, then people can kind of know what to expect, what it looks like, and things of that nature. And of course, reviews. Reviews, the more reviews you have, it'll definitely help you stand out in Google. So you want to make sure that when people come to you, you send them an email and ask them to put a review. Now you want to buffer in between that, because if they did have a bad experience, you don't want to go send them the Google reviews. So just ask them how the experience was, if there's anything you could have done better. And then if they say no, would you mind, going here and writing a review for us? It would really help us out. We're trying to expand. And if people had a great time, they have no problem doing that. All right, so let me show you a live example. Okay, so right here, this is under the search of the yoga studios in Washington, D.C. That's where I'm located right now. So I want to show you how these are the Google profiles. These are the ads. But let me show you, like we scroll down, and this is Yoga District. Now you see on the right-hand side how it pulls up all the information. Now this person didn't put pictures, but some of the other ones that I'm going to show you did, and you'll see the big difference. So right here, if you see the Studio DC, they added pictures, and you can see that over to the right-hand side. And same with Flow Yoga. So these are all Google profile pages. And if you look down here, these are organic search. So organic search basically means that these are all the search results that came and they didn't have to pay for this location. So this Google profile page comes up before organic search. That's a big deal, okay? And this is free. So this is the first thing you need to like go do right now. You have to create a Google profile page, because this is what's going to help your business stand out from other people who aren't doing this. So you want to do this in your local area. So make sure in your keywords you're very specific as to where you're located, your hours, and anything else that a prospect would want to know from you. All right, let's go back to the presentation. Okay, so video SEO with YouTube. Now, YouTube is awesome. It's a great way to get leads or have people learn about you. YouTube alone, I get probably 30 to 40 leads just off of YouTube, and I don't have a ton of subscribers. I don't have a ton of videos, but people are searching on YouTube. Now, what you have to remember when it comes to showing up in search is that Google owns YouTube. And so if you have the keywords and it's in a video format, your video will show up. So when you think about yoga studios and your competition, if you have a Google profile page, if you have your website come up on the first page, and then you have a video, you're going to stand out more than your competitors that may have one location on the Google search in your local town, okay? One of the other great things about YouTube is although it's the second largest search engine, Google being the first, YouTube being the second, but it's the first largest video search engine. So when people go to YouTube, they are looking for something. Think about the times when you've gone to YouTube other than when you're looking at cute, adorable, like cat videos or dog or pet videos. You're probably searching for something. So the leads on YouTube are very, very high. Unlike Facebook and some other things, YouTube, when people go in there, they're searching for something. So if they're searching for yoga or they're searching for it in their city or town, you want to show up. So I want to show you like right down here where you can see how the teacher, and this is Allison Adams in Washington, D.C. So she did a great job there. So you want to create a video with the right keywords, the company name and your location, because that's what's going to help you come up in search. So that if anyone's going to YouTube and they're typing those things, your video could possibly pop up, and then you have a lot of different things where people can see you. And I hope that's making sense. It's weird when I talk and I'm not getting interaction, so I'm like, is everyone following me okay?
You're making perfect sense, Cinnamon. This is very helpful.
Awesome. Great, great, great. I love it. All right. So the other thing about the YouTube videos, they're free, like everything else we've talked about so far. So do this, okay? You can actually do a video with your smartphone. Just make sure you have good lighting, but you could do this with your smartphone, so you don't have to feel like you have to hire this major production team. Even if you want to show certain poses for the intro levels, as to, you know, just get creative, but do a YouTube video and do your location and do it now. So Google Plus Hangouts and YouTube live events is what we are doing right now. So you can easily incorporate this into your business for a variety of reasons. Again, Google owns these things. So when it comes to search, Google likes to reward people who use their products and services. So if you do something like a YouTube live event, you can do that with, if you want to do or create another income stream and have maybe like a private course where you can live stream your yoga class, or you can have, that way they can see you and you can see them. So if they're doing the post incorrectly or whatever, you can correct that right there on the spot. In addition to, if you make it public, this also helps raise you in search. So definitely think about some ways you can do a YouTube live event or a Google Hangout. All right. Okay, so I'm going to talk about direct mail. Direct mail is important, sending postcard mailings to your business neighborhood. So if you have a yoga studio, you need to send postcards to the people who live in that area. You would be surprised how many businesses, period, don't do this. So an example of, let's say you have, you're a restaurant owner. If I live in a neighborhood and there's a restaurant I can walk to, I would totally want to know about it. The same thing comes when it comes to fitness. If there's a fitness studio or there's a yoga studio or anything and I can walk there instead of driving all the way to wherever, I need to know that. And the only way you can let them know that is by sending postcards or sending something to let people know that you exist. Do not pop up in a new location and not tell the neighbors that you're there. Like, those are the people who are going to want to be part of your fitness program because it's so close. So I'm going to show you two awesome resources. The first one is zip-codes.com, and we're going to go to their website right now. So this is the great thing about zip.codes. Now, some of the information is a little dated. It's kind of based on census information. I think census does it, every 4 years or something like that, but it's still good information. So let me just show you how this works. They have a bunch of stuff that you can buy, and I want you to avoid that, but I want to show you why you can come here. So I just put in a zip code in Washington, D.C., and this is the awesome thing because you get to learn about the neighborhood where your yoga studio is. So as you can see down here, it says the current population. It gives you the current population in 2010, how many zip codes are in the area, the house value in that area, the average income. Guys, see how, look at this stuff. Like, this is very important stuff. It even gives you the racial breakdown. It gives you male versus female population, which is really, really important. You want to know the median age because let's say you're in a neighborhood and everyone is like 55, okay, and you have a yoga studio. So again, if majority of the people around you are 55, then you may want to consider doing some marketing that can show people how to be more flexible and whatever it is for that age demographic. But do you see why this type of stuff is important? Because if you're going to do a direct mailing, you want to create your marketing so that you're speaking to the people who are around you. And if you never look to see what's going on in the neighborhood where you're doing business, you're doing yourself a terrible disservice. So all this information is free. You can find out, look, the median female age, the median male age, like this stuff is awesome. Then you can see how many businesses, mailboxes you have, how many residential, all of this stuff. You can see the annual payroll of businesses in this area. And I'm going to tell you why that's important. I got something on my screen. The reason why that's important and how many businesses are in the area, because in a minute I'm going to tell you, you need to go to those businesses that are your neighbors. And we'll talk about that in a second. But this is how you know how much income that is in that area coming from business revenue. I hope your mind is exploding right now. So again, you get to see the retired workers, disabled workers, widows, like children. This gives you so much information, okay? So after you do that, I'm going to talk to you about, where's my presentation? The next one is UPS, yes. Okay, so this is their website. This is UPS, no, that's not right, USPS, United Postal Service. And this is every door direct mail. This, for anyone who's done direct mail, and if you haven't, you might not be as excited as I am because I just recently learned about it. This is what this does. Before, when you wanted to do direct mail, you actually had to find a list broker and you had to pay them for the list, and then you had to get your postcards and mail them and that type of thing. Now, what you can do here, you don't even need someone's address. Let me just show you how this tool works really quickly. Now, I'm not logged into my account, so you won't be able to see all the features, but just enough to blow your mind, okay? So again, let me put in an address in DC. Processing. So what this is going to do, this is going to pull up the information in that area. So this is just awesome. So if you just want to do residential, you can click residential. If you want to do business and residential, if you want to separate it, because if you're doing a direct mail campaign, you may just want to focus some toward the residents and others to businesses, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but it's your call, however you want to do it. So here you can really get specific on even the age demographic, guys. So this is not something you have to pay some company to get, because that's what we had to do before when we were doing direct mailing. Now the U.S. Postal Service is giving you access to this for free. So you can break down as to what information you want. And then what I want to show you here is that this will give you an estimate on how much it'll cost. Like you can see, these aren't crazy numbers, guys. And you can see, so this has the various parts of the zip codes because there's different neighborhoods. So you want to find, oh, wait. Can I back up for like 2 seconds? This is also what I need to show you on zip codes because that's going to apply right here, right here. I forgot about that, guys. Work with me. Hold on. Okay. So right here, this is what's going to show you the areas that are closest to you. Now, this looks kind of crazy because Washington, D.C., where I live, is not really a state. It's like a fake state. So when you do this with your state, it'll have neighborhoods here. It doesn't with us because we're just a weird location. But what I want to show you is that right here you see the, oh shoot, wait, what did I do? Come back. Right here you see the distance. So if you have a yoga studio, you at least want to see the people who are, let's say, 3 miles out. Or you could take it all the way to a mile away, whatever floats your boat. But you can see the zip codes that are associated with what's closer in your area. So you're going to take the zip code of where your yoga studio is located and then find the other zip codes that are closest to you, okay? So what that does, it narrows it down to your neighborhood because you want to let the people know in your neighborhood as to that you opened up or that you have this yoga studio. Let's see. So if you want to do it to, let's just go like 2 miles. So all of these zip codes here from like number 9 and up are the places where I would want to send direct mail because these people are close enough that if they wanted to walk to my yoga studio, they totally can. And that's a big deal, okay? So that's what you're also going to use that from. So let me go back to the U.S. postal situation. Okay, so remember, we did the whole zip code thing. Now you can come here and attach what zip code you want, and it'll tell you how much it's going to cost. You see how this is? You can check that you want this and this or however, and it'll show you how much it'll cost and how many people or residents are there. And then you can break this down. Like, this is a big deal, guys, because you had to pay for a list before, and you can pay hundreds to thousands of dollars for a list, and it's free. So I hope your mind is exploding right now. Okay. Now,
Cinnamon, can I ask a question?
absolutely.
So say a studio owner wanted to go ahead and they figured out they wanted to mail within 3 miles of their studio, and they went onto the USPS.com and figured out how much it was going to cost. Is there a tool that actually integrates with the mailing, or who do they talk to about next steps? Do they find a graphic designer? Do they find a direct mail company that will help them make their postcards? Sort of what's the
That's a really good question. You can do it a variety of ways. You can work with a graphic and have someone else develop the postcards. If you're doing it in your local area, now first off, you're going to set an account up with the EDDM, which is the Every Door Direct Mail. You have to set an account up, and they walk you through the process of how to do it. So if it's in your local area, you could literally take the postcards and drop them off at one of the postal places that whatever. Does that make sense? You can drop it off at the local postal place that they tell you to drop it off based on where you live. Now, if you want to do something like this for, let's say you're a yoga studio owner and you own, let's say, various, like maybe 3 locations, and maybe some are out of the state, then you can easily either, a lot of the postcard companies, the ones that you go to online, like let's do a quick search right quick. So this is called Every Door Direct Mail. Every Door Direct. So what's going to show up, because the U.S. Postal Service does not know how to market, well, their website shows up, but also all the other online companies that will mail for you. So here's Next Day Flyers. Clearly they do it. So you can use a graphic design company that already, see, look, the only way to deliver mail. They already know. It's 17.5 cents, guys. Like, if you don't do this, I'm coming after you. So yeah, you can use some of these online companies. When I need to get postcards done, I typically go to Overnight Prints. They're very cost effective, and if you're not in like a rush, you can use them. But you can use whomever. But there's already online companies that already know about this, and they have it already set up for you, and they'll distribute it the way that you need to do. But you are going to set up an account on here though. Okay, so don't forget about that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's super helpful. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. All right, so let's see. What do I have here? Okay, so you're going to be a good neighbor. So people may not desire to travel hours or great distances to go to a yoga studio. So it's imperative, okay, for you to reach out to the people who live or work locally to your studio, okay? And depending on where you're located, you may have a lot of competitors. So you want to make sure that you're letting people know in your area that you exist, because a lot of times we just don't know. I mean, there's a new studio that popped up in my neighborhood. I had no clue. I was going to the bank and I saw them. So definitely reach out to those businesses and the people who live locally. Also, I encourage you to get out and meet your local business neighbors, okay? So if you're in business, you're in a business district, there are other businesses around there. Go out, shake hands, kiss babies, get to know them, and then you can possibly create a group special specifically for their employees. So think about that. But if you don't reach out to your community that's around you, you are doing yourself a terrible disservice. I hope I'm beating that in your head enough. Don't forget about contacting the property managers of apartment and condo communities in your studio's neighborhood. So you can develop offers for them as well, but they may, want you to come in and do an event. A lot of the apartment complexes, at least the new ones that exist, they're always trying to do events for their residents. And it could be awesome that you do like a quick intro course for them and then let them know that you're right down the street. You want to do the same thing with condo communities, any senior citizen home. Like, don't forget about the people who live by you, because those are the ones that are going to come to you because you're convenient. When you think about grocery stores, unless it's like some specialty groceries that you need for something, you go to the grocery store that's closest to your neighborhood. So if you're in the neighborhood, like, let people know. Am I like being redundant on that? So this is your website. When people go to your website, I need you to do a couple of things. So if you're doing all this web search and YouTube and all this other stuff and people are coming to your website, you need to make sure that that experience that we were talking about, that you're able to close the deal. So one of the ways you can do that, you can create a free offer to obtain an email address or their physical address. Now, many people will say, join our mailing list. No one's joining your mailing list because we hold our email addresses very close to us. We don't want any more spam or any more information. So typically when you see join your mailing list on someone's website, the conversion rate on that is extremely low. So I don't encourage you to do that. What I do encourage you to do is think about your clientele. What are some things that they would find helpful? And then create a report or something that they would really want. And in order to get it, they have to get your email address. You have to get their email address. The reason why you want to do that is because we go to websites like a zillion a day. Like, we can't remember all the websites that we've been to and that we've even liked. So you have to have a way to keep a relationship with these individuals. And when I talked about the retention part of marketing, that is where this kind of comes in. So somebody might be interested in joining or coming to your studio, but then they forgot. You know how it is. Stuff happens, like work or whatever. And then I get an email. You know what? Let me go check it out. So you really need to lock this down. If someone comes to your website, figure out something that you can give that will kind of create that relationship. And let me just give you one example. So let's say, oops, I got all my stuff on that. Okay, so let's say you have a intro to yoga guide. Now, I'm kind of biased because I'm not all the way into yoga, and I've gone like 2 classes, and I always get nervous that I won't know the terms, I don't really know the poses, and I'm going to sit around and look crazy. But what would be helpful to people who have never done yoga or are interested, but they still don't quite know what it's about, you can do an intro to yoga guide. And with that, you can create one page that has commonly used terms. You could do video poses so that when someone hears that term, they know what pose it is associated with it. And you could do a product buying guide. Like if people have to buy yoga mats, or there's particular clothing that will be more comfortable, or shoes, or whatever you as an expert in this industry can provide to someone would be helpful. And this helps with your experience, because most yoga studio website people stuff are not doing that. So you want to kind of say, how can I be different from my competitors? So it doesn't have to be an intro to yoga, whatever it is, but think about your audience and who you're marketing to. So if you're marketing in the young adults versus senior citizens versus the busy executive woman, if someone, the stay-at-home mom, all of those different demographics are going to have different needs. So you want to market accordingly, depending on if you've already done research on who your current customers are, then you can kind of keep that going and know what they may like in a report if they were to meet you for the first time. All right, so you want to demonstrate on your website why you're different, okay? So think about that. Why should someone come to your studio versus going to someone else? And take time and think about that. It is a lively group. Is it, what is it? Do you have like legendary people that are teaching? What is it that makes you different? Be sure to put that on your website, because if someone just comes to a yoga studio like website and they can go to a bunch of other ones, you have to think what's going to keep them there, all right? The other thing is make it easy for your customers to pay. If they want to pay online, make it easy. I know some studio owners are using like Mind and Body or Mind and something to accept payments, and I'm just going to tell you from someone who's used it, the customer experience is horrible. It's very confusing, and when it comes to other ways that we shop online, think about the times when you shop online. It is very easy. If you think about Amazon, they have it, look, what you want, let's get it going, here's a click, you're done. That's the way we're used to shopping online. So when we experience a website that it's not that easy, it creates friction. And then we're like, forget it, I'm just not going to do it. So when you're on your website, pretend you don't know yourself. You don't know your business. You don't own it. Go to your website with fresh eyes and think, if my customer came here, would they learn why they should come? Would they feel comfortable? And can they pay easily? Okay, so think about that. When you are on the website. So this is interested in learning more. If you have any questions, I do encourage you to give me an email, or you can set an appointment with me. So we're going to do any Q&A, right, Jenny, if we have any questions?
Yes, yes, I am. I was muted. I have a question. You've covered it a little bit, but one of our studio owners has asked, hi, Cinnamon, I would love your opinion on print advertising for yoga studios. So you sort of covered that a bit with your direct mail, but he goes on to say, I know it's costly and you have to keep at it, but how would you rate a weekly ad in an alternative city newspaper and local neighborhood newspapers that cover the area where the studio is located?
And I'm going to be perfectly honest, and this is my opinion, I don't think you should put ads there. Because one, you can't measure that. You can't measure the effectiveness. So I'm going to encourage you to spend more time on your own individual market and sending it to people in the area. So let's just go to Overnight Prints really quickly. This is the company. And sometimes Overnight Prints really makes me upset. Overnightprints.com. So I'm just going to show you how much it could potentially cost to like get postcards made. This is just an example. So upload, let's use a template really quickly just so we can get some numbers. I thought they used to give you numbers off the break. Let's go with this. Continue. Oh, wait. I thought they just gave you prices. I know they did it. Oh, here it is. Price and delivery. I didn't even have to do all that. So right now, let's say you want say 500 postcards. You want them single. We want double-sided because you're probably going to write content on the back. No envelopes, no gloss, all that other stuff. So this is for 500. It's $80, okay? And you can get a graphic design artist to design it, or you can use their template. They have, attractive templates, so you don't have to pay a designer at all. You just want to make sure that you're very clear as to what you want this postcard to do. Now, also what I recommend that you do is you want to put a telephone number on it, but you don't want to put your telephone number on it. You want to put, let's see, what's the name of the company? The company I use is Twilio, and that's going to stress you out a little bit. So what is it called? Call track. Call track matrix. So the good thing with companies like this, and if you're going to invest in your marketing, guys, the reason why I feel like you could either pay a company to do this, or you should at least know how it works, so that if you're working with a company, you know that they know what they're talking about. So the benefit of this is how you track the effectiveness of your campaign. So here you can actually rent a local telephone number, okay? Typically, they're no more than $2 to $1 a month. I use Twilio, so it's $1 a month. So what happens is they give you a local telephone number. That is a telephone number you put on your postcards. So if someone calls, it will go to your regular business number, but you'll be able to track that it came from your postcard. And depending on, you're not going to do postcards once and then you're done. You want to keep staying in people's mind. So you may send them maybe every quarter. And you're going to put a different number so that you know which one, because you want to test all this, okay? So you put a different number for each postcard. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So
okay.
If you owned a studio in Washington, D.C., how often would you be sending out your postcards?
I would probably do, one, I would see how many yoga studios are in my area. But I would probably send postcards, and it's going to vary. You want to do it first and then see what the response rate is, because it may be that so many people come in that you don't need to send any more postcards. You know what I mean? So it's not like a definite way, but then you could follow up maybe 3 months later, or 6 months later. You want to see how it responds. It's hard to know it if you've never done it and you've never done it in your area before. But in DC, I would probably at least start off, at least quarterly. And with that, you want to learn about your neighborhood, like we talked about earlier, so that so when you're doing these postcards, it's not just, hey, we're a yoga studio. You want to communicate in the way that majority of the people who live there would understand. So if you had an all male area, majority of the people who live in your area are men, you want to make sure that your postcard kind of reflects how yoga can make you strong, and how ways that men would find important relating to yoga. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
That sounds helpful.
Okay, so wait, where was I? Hold on. Okay. You had another question about, so did I answer the first question about the payment for the newsletter ads? I really feel like you should just do it yourself. You don't have to do the mailing yourself, but instead of assuming that you're going, because I've done newspaper ads like a long time ago, and it just doesn't have the rate of return. It hadn't for me, but I don't want you to pay in another advertisement form before you start letting the people know in your area that you exist. If you let the people know in your area that you exist and it's crickets, you don't hear anything, then that's one thing. But do that first. Let people know in your area that you exist. And again, don't forget about the businesses. So if you're advertising in these newspapers, I'm going to ask you, did you go to the businesses in the neighborhood? Did you go meet them? Because that's free. It's free for you to do that. You don't have to pay for that. So think about the ways of just, I know some people kind of want to just do their business and go home and not like interact with everything else that's around them. But the problem is that's kind of how you can go out of business. Because people around you just don't know that you exist. Like, you think, oh, I never seen those there. Oh, I never knew that existed, because no one told them. So there's a lot you could do for free, and that's just shaking hands and kissing babies with the people who are already around you. I would recommend doing that first before you pay to put your ad in a newspaper.
Got it. That's super helpful. And just one more question for you. Do you have time for one more?
Yeah, as many questions as you need. I got the whole evening for you.
So there's a lot of confusion now with Facebook advertising, and confusion about how the organic reach of Facebook pages has gone down. So a lot of studios I know have put a lot of effort into creating a Facebook presence. And so do you have any tips for studio owners about how much they should be focusing on Facebook advertising, and any tips around how to do effective Facebook advertising?
Well, I'm going to be perfectly honest and transparent with you. So there are going to be a whole bunch of things that, what you have to remember is that you don't own social media. And you have to remember, so with that being said, you have to focus on how you're going to market for yourself so that your business doesn't fail just because a social media changed their terms. Facebook's in the business of making money, so the more money you pay, then maybe your stuff will show up to the group of people that you try to like. It's changed a lot over the years. So you have to also remember that Facebook is an internal, it's like an intranet, whereas your Google services are more external. That is why I spent more time with my clients talking to them about Google's free service, because one, Google services are free with the exception of AdWords. Google services are free, but it's external. So you don't have to log in to Google to search on YouTube or on Google. You can just get it. For Facebook, people have to be in there. They had to like you. They may have to be in a group. It's a lot of other elements for people to get to you. So do I have recommendations on marketing on Facebook? No, I don't. There are some people who could probably give that to you. I can't, because that's not the direction I typically go. Because I want to have a little bit more control in my marketing. Now, what you can use Facebook to is the demographic information that they know all people, they know all your business. They know where you live and how much money you make and that type of thing. So if you want to kind of market to those people specifically, so if you break it down to that level, and it can be very expensive. So this is not necessarily organic based on the likes that you have on your page. This is just an ad that you put up. You make it so that it's very, very niche specific, and then you take them to a landing page. You are not taking them to your page on Facebook. You are taking them off of Facebook and you're bringing them back to your website that has a landing page. And for those of you who don't know what that, it's basically a page that when you registered for this webinar, you came to a landing page. And it's important that you have those, because when people come to your website and you got a whole bunch of stuff going on, they don't know what to do. Too much. So if you have a landing page, it specifically focuses out what you want them to do. So if you want them to register for a webinar, if you want them to get a free offer or whatever, make sure that you have a landing page, and combining a Facebook ad with a landing page makes it more effective. But if you try to market and say, just come on over and like my page, that doesn't matter at all anymore with Facebook, unless you're paying, liking it still doesn't mean that everyone's going to see it. So I do encourage you to spend some more time on the Google products, because they're out in the open. They come up in search. When you search for something, and if it's on Facebook or it's a post, it doesn't really come up in Google search. Everything on YouTube comes up in search. Everything obviously on Google profile. So you see how those services are free. And because Google owns them, people aren't, when you want to go to a new yoga studio, you're not going to Facebook. You're actually going to Google, and you type in your city or state and yoga studio. So you want to show up in Google. So, I mean, you could do some Facebook things, but don't forget about the major search engine, and that's Google.
Got it. That's super helpful. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for all of your you're such an amazing resource, Cinnamon. We're very lucky to have you sharing your ideas with our community.
Awesome. But yeah, that's basically how it works. So if you have any questions, again, feel free to either shoot me an email or set an appointment, and we can do a quick thing to let you know how you can do things individually for your studio. But don't forget about Google. So all the stuff we talked about, it was very Google focused, but there's a reason for that, because that's what people use to search, and you want to show up in search. So I hope that helps. I hope you found some things that you can take and you can implement. If you do anything immediately, please go set up a Google profile page if you want to know, or a tutorial on that. Just, again, go on YouTube. I have a video, but so many people have done how-tos on that on YouTube that you would totally know how to do it. And you can have that done by the end of the night. Okay, so, and you want to also Google yoga studios in your area. See who your competition is and see how many reviews they have, because then you could see how easy it would be for you to kind of like dominate.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I'll just also add that on our Yoga Business Mastermind blog, we also have a recent blog post about creating a Google profile for your studio. So awesome. you can learn a little bit more about that as well there, and awesome. That might be helpful.
Awesome. Yes, definitely do that. I encourage you to do it right now. Like, it's so important, and it's easy, and it's free. Like, everything we discussed, with the exception of the direct mail, which showed it's not as expensive as people think that it is. Like, you don't have to do 500 people. If you want to do 100 people, you can do that. Like, you can start off small. If, you can hang some doors, and the door, what do they call the door? What are the things you hang on the doors to let people know about stuff? The door advertisements that they hang on the doorknob. I can't think of the name of that, but those type of things you can order, and if you have kids, you can send them around the neighborhood and have them so don't forget about the free stuff you can do, but the main thing is to increase your exposure. And we talked about retention. When people are excited, you still have to create a relationship with those who have paid you money. Don't forget about that. I know we didn't talk about it in this webinar. Maybe we'll do it, in a future webinar, but don't forget about the people who are working with you and how you're creating a relationship with them, because that's a bulk of where your money comes from too.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. Within our mastermind group, is that's a huge, retention is a huge issue for studios.
Mm-hmm. But if all you do is just teach but not reach out to them again, there's no question why the retention is bad. Everything's going on in your life, you forget, but find and implement ways so that people, if they did forget, you can re-engage. So if you already have the addresses for the people who attended your classes, shoot them a postcard. We haven't seen you in a bit. Come in for it, you know what I mean? So just stay in touch with those people who've already sent money with you. And you need to have a contact management system. If you don't, get one, because that's how you track who came in, who didn't, and how long they've been. And if you use pen and paper to do that, it's going to be a pain. So definitely, look into that.
Great. Well, this has been incredibly valuable. Thank you, Cinnamon. We'd love to have you back for another webinar in the future to talk more about retention. If you're interested, let's keep in touch about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Anything you need, just let me know.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Well, this has been fantastic. I will go ahead and we'll say thank you and good night to Cinnamon. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in live, and continue to ask us questions and engage with us over on the Yoga Business Mastermind blog, and we'd love to continue this conversation. So thanks everyone. Have a great night.
Bye.